How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sundays, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. Also, Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 Eastern with Jim Valley, who is joining us here today and presumably has got something on, I hope. What have you got today, Jim?
Yes, indeed. I am wearing, from his restaurant in Japan and Tokyo, a Killer Khan restaurant t-shirt. So it says Killer Khan on it. And, I always try to have reasons for these shirts. And today the reason was it was on top of the pile. So the most important reason of all.
When are you going to be buying some new shirts here, Jim?
I am running out. We've been quarantined for so long. I need some new shirts, don't I?
And what about your video? When's that coming?
We've been working on a whole bunch of stuff here. I'm not ready for Twitch on your end, but thankfully Figure 4 did move me into their top 8 on MySpace. So I'm very grateful for that.
Well, we've also got an announcement later on in this show. Not a big announcement, but if you're wanting to call in today, don't, because I got a new system we're going to try out here today. We'll see if it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But we're going to give it a try here today. I'll tell you more about that later. But we got a lot of news to get into. And if you want to join us here today, for now, text messages, 425-780-7566, Bryan at WrestlingObserver.com, or at Bryan Alvarez on Twitter. We're here live, as always, Sports Byline USA Broadcasting Network, as well as twitch.tv/F4W Video. Lots of ways to follow this show. All this information on the front page. We have got a lot of news on WWE, AEW. We got ratings to talk about here. We have got, well, really a number of different things. SmackDown here tonight. Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles are going to have a face-off, and a number of other topics as well. Jim's going to give his thoughts on a bunch of things over the last week as well, including after the break. We'll be asking Jim about his thoughts on the Drake Maverick hiring and firing, or firing and hiring, which was the subject of the entire show yesterday. All of that coming up after the break. Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Jim Valley is joining us here today. For all the Twitch homies out there who had no audio, we're back. I apologize. It was my fault. If you go to my Twitter, at Bryan Alvarez, we've been doing a big-time upgrade here, and we switched out a lot of things, and we simplified a lot of things. We got rid of like 85,000 cables and assorted crap. I took a picture of it yesterday. It's up on my Twitter right now, at Bryan Alvarez. And apparently in the middle of all of that, I removed one cable too many. But now it's back. Now you should be able to hear the show. You didn't miss much in the opening segment. Just me fumbling around here and basically alerting you not to call, because we're going to have an announcement about calls in the next segment. But for now, text messages, emails, etc. with myself and Jim Valley, who is wearing clothes. That was also confirmed in the opening segment. But anyway, a couple of notes here today. News programming once again dominated the ratings on Wednesday night. As I expected, I wouldn't say desperately affected AEW, but AEW on TNT, 730,000 viewers, down 11.7% from the week prior. 18 to 49, however, as is always the case when there is strong news competition, they got smashed, dropped all the way to 27th on cable, with a 0.29 rating, down 9.4% from last week. NXT only down 2.2% in viewership, averaging 715,000 viewers for the go-home show for In Your House. Best number for the show since March 4th, 18 to 49, NXT up 5.3% from last week, averaging a 0.2 rating. So, as I've mentioned 1,000 times, when there's strong mainstream news competition, speeches, etc., debates, it always affects AEW more significantly than it does NXT. The only thing that we've seen really affect NXT has actually been NASCAR, of all things. So the combined audience, even though the Dynamite number was down, and even though even though the NXT number was only slightly up, 1.445 million viewers, which is considerably higher than it has been most weeks in the closed set era. So it is looking like the addition of fans to NXT, the addition of fans to SmackDown, I guess people getting sick of coronavirus news at least. I mean, we're slowly starting to get back to where we were before everything got shut down, with the exception of Raw. And Raw, the last 2 weeks, I would say there were extenuating circumstances. There was Memorial Day, and then, of course, the news coverage on Monday night just destroyed Raw. I mean, Raw, even when its numbers are near all-time lows, they're usually like 1, 2, and 3 and 18 to 49, 1, 2, and 4, something like that. They were way down in 18 to 49. They were largely out of the top 10, if I recall correctly, because everybody was watching the news. So we'll find out, I guess, this Monday if Raw is also creeping back to normal, or if it ends up being the one show that took a hit and is not going to recover. Any thoughts on any of this, Jim? And also your thoughts on Drake Maverick?
A couple of things. One, I think with the news coverage being so popular, I think now there's really only one choice to get the Raw ratings back up, and that's to have your new 24/7 champion be Rachel Maddow. Wouldn't that be great? She and R-Truth running around doing all that? No?
I'm skeptical you're going to see that one.
Anderson Cooper, would that be better?
I'm skeptical you're going to see any of these.
Anyway, I think it's good news. I mean, both you and I were really worried as far as what these mean for the gap that we're seeing as far as fans in attendance and all the interest in other places. But I think the fact that it appears to be given by we've seen other spikes and higher points in the ratings in prior weeks, that this just appears to be a phase, which I think is good news and a sense of relief. I know for me and probably anybody who follows the business of professional wrestling. As far as Drake Maverick, I find it to be very conflicting. On one hand, you're happy that he was able to, for lack of a better term, work his way back into a job. You certainly don't want to see people out of work, particularly in these very difficult times. So good for him. On the other hand, this sounds like a storyline that Mr. Burns from The Simpsons would think was entertaining, to hold a guy's real-life job over his head, and think the fans who watch this would find this to be entertaining and not kind of shocking, and kind of draw their own personal experience into this while they're watching it on television. I'm also surprised that the narrative coming out of WWE that is that it wasn't Drake's Maverick's idea the whole time, because that's usually what it is. Anytime there's a tasteless storyline, it's always that wrestler's idea for some reason. It's remarkable how that happens, but it didn't happen in this case. It sounds like it was just the left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing. And in this case, it all worked out for the best. So as conflicted as I am, I guess all's well that ends well, and I'll give everybody the benefit of the doubt this time.
New Japan Pro Wrestling set to make an announcement soon in relation to future events. The company announced this morning on social media they will be holding an online press conference Monday regarding New Japan future events. It will be held at 11 o'clock Eastern on New Japan World. Harold May, New Japan president, previously detailed a roadmap that would eventually lead to the return of live events. He said they would only consider running shows when Japan lifts its countrywide state of emergency, which has happened, the number of new infections decline, and when matches can take place in disinfected and safe settings. Emergency declaration lifted May 25. I don't know what is going to be announced, but I find it hard to believe that New Japan would do a press conference streaming live on New Japan World to announce that we're not going to be running shows. I think, obviously, the announcement is going to entail live shows returning. Now, I would guess that they are going to begin in empty arenas. And I think that the first few shows will be empty arena shows. And then after that, they will slowly, I would guess, probably start putting wrestlers in the crowd maybe, and then go from there. But I'm pretty confident, although I do not know, that this Sunday there will be the announcement of when New Japan is going to run their first set of post-pandemic shows.
And it's also going to be curious, if that's the case, where on the calendar they're going to be picking up as far as what's going to be the next big event that New Japan is going to be building to, as it always goes through its traditional calendar year. That's another question that I have as far as what's next for New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Sounds hard to believe, but they have not run a show since February 26th. We're almost at 4 months without New Japan running a show. I got people all the time that they know what I do, but they're not like fans or anything like that. And, they'll every now and then contact me. How you doing? How are things going? What have you been doing? And they're flabbergasted to learn that I never stopped doing anything. Wrestling, like pro wrestling in this country, they never stopped for 1 week. They just barreled on through. And meanwhile, here's New Japan, 0 shows since February 26th. So, pretty amazing, but that's where we're at. Intercontinental title tournament, Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles are the finalists. And tonight on SmackDown, they will be doing a face-to-face confrontation for a segment on SmackDown. The finals, interestingly enough, are not on the Backlash pay-per-view, which is next Sunday. The finals are taking place on SmackDown next Friday. So instead of waiting 2 days and putting the finals on pay-per-view, instead they're just going to air the finals of the tournament on SmackDown. I don't know why. I presume there must be some sort of angle.
Of course, there's you can't have 2 greatest matches of all time on the Backlash pay-per-view. You can't have the Intercontinental Championship outshine the greatest match of all time ever, for sure. Definitely.
Also advertising that Jeff Hardy is going to share his side of the story on SmackDown. For those of you very concerned about Elias, he has been released from the local medical facility and apparently is recovering after he was run over by a car or something last week. Bayley and Sasha versus Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross for the women's tag team titles. Did you guys know that match was coming up tonight? And Miz and Morrison will have a warning for Braun Strowman. Someone on our board predicted 1.9 million. I think it's going to be above 2. We'll find out. Back in a moment. Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Jim Valley joining us here today. We're going to try something here today. I set up a new phone system here, and if it works, we'll continue to use it, and if it doesn't work, we won't. And doing this will also allow us to do some call-in shows, perhaps at other times when we are not here live on Sports Byline USA. So, very quickly, this is how it works. The new phone number, toll-free, it's a free call, 844-913-2727. Write that down somewhere. 844-913-2727. Now, the way it's going to work is when you call, you're going to get a recorded message telling you that you've called the right place. So scats won't have a problem. I made sure of that. And then, unlike the Sports Byline phone lines, you will actually be able to hear the show while you're on hold. Now, I can get, it's kind of like caller ID. I get the name, in most cases, of the person who's calling. But if you're calling from somebody else's phone or something like that, I might get the wrong name. But one way or the other, you'll know whether I call your name or I call the wrong name or whatever, you'll know you're on the air because there's going to be a loud beep. So this is idiot-proofed here, at least in theory. So once again, the phone number, 844-913-2727. That is 844-913-2727. I'll tweet it out here in a moment. And, of course, text messages remain the same at 425-780-7566. Back to the news. We wait for folks. 5 available lines, by the way. So the only time you'll get a busy signal is if there happen to be 5 people already on the line. I'm going to hold it at 5. If we get more than 5, you're just going to have to wait in line. AEW not making their debut in Newark, New Jersey this year after all. Email went out to ticket holders on Thursday. Dynamite will instead debut at the Prudential Center Wednesday, February 24, 2021 instead. This was the show originally scheduled for March 25 and was going to be headlined by the Blood and Guts match. And it was, of course, postponed. The New York, New Jersey debut shaping up to be one of the most successful ever. It sold 10,000 tickets less than a week after they went on sale. And a number of other dates have been rescheduled as well. But I guess the big question is, what's up with Blood and Guts? Like, I presume they're going to wait until they can get a full bank of fans in the arena, as we say here in the radio biz, Or maybe they'll just wait until they can go back to the Prudential Center. I mean, they've moved on with different storylines. I mean, the question is, how long can you continue the Inner Circle versus Elite storyline? I mean, it seems that the Stadium Stampede was the plan all along, whether there were empty arenas or not. So I guess the storyline would have been that they would have gone from Blood and Guts to the Stadium Stampede. Now I guess they're going to maybe go from Stadium Stampede to Blood and Guts someday. But we don't know. We don't know when this show's going to take place.
I think it's smart to hold off. 10,000 seats is a lot of money to leave on the table if you go now and you've got to do 50% or 30% capacity. Plus, you want that first appearance in a major market, New York, New Jersey, to be a huge home run, as opposed to just kind of, yay, we're back. Yeah, and given AEW, I mean, look at how long they've kind of been able to make their storylines go as far as Adam Page and other things. I have faith, or I don't think it'll be that big of a deal for AEW to wait until they go back to New Jersey and do Blood and Guts there. And it doesn't have to necessarily be Inner Circle versus whomever. It can be, two new factions that have taken shape over the course of the next year. But I don't think this is a bad idea at all. I think you're leaving too much money. Go there when it's going to be huge. Make a first huge impression, get people's attention, make all the money you can. I think it's too valuable to just do it halfway.
All right, well, we're going to see how this works. We got 3 callers on the line. Let's go to the phone. Selbach, you're on the air. What's going on?
Hey, Bryan, how are you today?
What's going on?
Is this working?
Yeah, you're on the air. What's happening?
Seems to be so far. Hey, I got an AEW question for you. So, Cody's having this open challenge every week. And I thought an open challenge was meant to be kind of a surprise type of thing. But for some reason, Mark Quinn is getting the title shot immediately for some reason. I don't know how he earned it, but it doesn't seem like it's an open challenge when they announce the competitor a week in advance. Just want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I want to thank you very much for the call. I'm not sure they ever actually said it was an open challenge. I was always under the impression that Cody just said, I'm going to defend the title every week. And, open challenge doesn't necessarily mean that it's a surprise. What open challenge means is that, Cody is open to anybody challenging him. And it can be a surprise, or it can be, it can be advanced or announced in advance or whatever. So, yeah, I'm fine with it. Jim, any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it whatsoever. If he's going to do it every week, I mean, you only have so many main event people. Plus, sometimes in wrestling, there aren't necessarily kayfabe reasons to have a match. And I don't know anything. These are all just examples to just get you thinking about it. This is not comment on anything specifically. Maybe Mark Quinn has been working on singles stuff. Maybe he, just wants a singles match. Maybe they want to see how he's doing. I mean, he's a younger wrestler. Maybe it's kind of, hey, let's see how you're doing as far as your progression goes in your still very young career. Or maybe they have some storyline that's going to come up. Last week, Matt Hardy was talking to Private Parties. Is that going to play a role where maybe something happens to Mark Quinn and it brings out Matt Hardy for some reason? So there could be a number of reasons as to why this match is taking place, or maybe it's just kind of like Jungle Boy a few weeks ago with Chris Jericho. Give a young star an opportunity to shine as a singles, and then maybe get you thinking down the road, this could be a future single star in AEW.
I do want to say, I don't want to bury the last caller, but I want to make clear, this goes for AEW and WWE and really any promotion. I remember watching WCW when Russo was in charge and Nash and like some really, really stupid things happened. Like Bam Bam Bigelow in a Falls Count Anywhere match getting counted out. Like, how do you get counted out of a Falls Count Anywhere match? And we saw like really stupid stuff like this every week on television. And there was plenty to rant about that was stupid and made no sense. And sometimes I feel that that now there's, and listen, people accuse me of the same thing, a lot of nitpicking. I mean, Cody issuing an open challenge and them telling you in advance who it's going to be. I mean, to me, this is low on the list of things to complain about in pro wrestling, historically and today. That's just my thoughts.
I don't know about you, but I sure hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
Huntington, New York, you're on the air. What's going on?
I have a question about Adam Cole. Is he going to go to AEW when his contract expires?
Well, I want to thank you very much for the call. I mean, I don't know if Adam Cole is going to go to AEW when his contract expires. I mean, I talked about this a couple of days ago. I mean, Adam Cole, to the best of my knowledge, and I don't know for sure, but I mean, he's in NXT, so the chances are he's on an NXT deal. And I'm fairly confident that AEW would offer him more money than he's going to make on an AEW deal. So it stands to reason that unless WWE calls him up to the main roster, if his options are NXT on USA, having already been champion, and likely he's going to lose the champion at some point, I mean, hopefully not this coming Sunday. I mean, there's got to be better options than the current Velveteen Dream. But at the end of the day, I mean, if those are your options, then why would you not go to AEW? Britt Baker, his girlfriend, works there. But if you call him up to the main roster and he's making main roster money and he's being pushed on the main roster, that's another story entirely. So I don't know what they're going to do. I think he's 2 years into a 3-year deal. My expectation is that sometime soon he's going to get the call up, and then he'll have a big decision to make. So I guess we'll see. And we also don't know if they call him up to the main roster, if he'll be required to sign a new contract with an extension. A lot of questions that we don't have answers to. So I cannot give you a good answer as to what I think that he's going to do.
Yeah, it's way, way, way too soon to tell.
Let's go to some of the text messages here, and then we'll get back to the phone. So far, the phones seem to be working fine.
Are you sure? Because we haven't had a call from Ryan yet. I think
hey, actually, he's on the line right now.
Oh, okay. Phew, I was worried.
Hey, you want him?
No.
Okay, well, you're going to get him. Ryan, you're on the air. Let's get this over with. What's going on?
I have a question about the Slammiversary match that Impact shared this week between Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre. What do you think the main reason was that they gave away that match? Were they trying to prove that they can do the match better than WWE since they do like power drivers and have fans and WWE isn't to have that at their match?
Well, Ryan, I'm sure they gave away that match because that match is coming up on the pay-per-view. So that would be my guess. I mean, it had fans because fans were there then. I don't know. Of all your questions, Ryan, that's very low on the list of things to spur a discussion. But thank you for your call.
I think it had fans because TNA gave away free tickets in Orlando. I think that's why it had fans, if I remember right. But no, I mean, they're both in WWE. Why wouldn't you do that? You need to fill content and time right now. I think it's perfect timing. It made absolute sense.
I think I accidentally hung up on somebody, so I apologize for that. We're still trying to figure out how all this works. But if you want to give us a call when we come back from the break, 844-913-2727. It's up on my Twitter at Bryan Alvarez. Back in a moment, Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Jim Valley joining us here today. Phone line, I think we got one line open out of 5. I can have 20, believe it or not, Jim. I can have 20 lines going at the same time. But I'm restricting it to 5 because eventually we're going to have to just hang up on people as the show goes off the air. But if you'd like to try out our new phone system, 844-913-2727. That is toll-free, 844-913-2727. 2727. Give us a call and let us know what is on your mind. A couple of text messages here before that, however. We got a lot of these as well. So this person says, how do you feel about AEW featuring Jon Moxley on Dark? Considering I can't remember a WWE champion being on Main Event, which was still a television show. Well, I was wondering what in the world was going on with Jon Moxley on Dark, because to me, if Jon Moxley's having a big match, like it should be on television, right? Not on Dark. But turns out they announced his opponent here today, and no disrespect to this individual, but it's Robert Anthony. So it's not like he's facing Brody Lee or Chris Jericho He's basically having an enhancement match. And no, I actually have no problem with Jon Moxley having an enhancement match on the Dark show. I mean, the idea should be that you build up Dark. Because eventually, one of these days, Dark is going to be on TNT. That's part of their new television deal. They're getting another hour of television, or 2 hours. I don't know what it is, actually. I forget. But they're getting another show, and it's probably going to be AEW Dark. So while I don't watch Dark right now, I mean, I'll be watching it when it's on TNT, and they should be building it up and making it seem like a pretty important show on YouTube so that it will be a more seamless transition to TNT. So no, I have no problem with Jon Moxley having an enhancement match on that show.
I agree with everything you said, and let me add on to that. An enhancement match is a commercial for the marquee star. In this case, Jon Moxley. And a lot of times when you're the world champion, like you talked about, you've got to face the big star, Jericho, Brody Lee, whomever, in a one-on-one competitive match. So in an enhancement match, it reminds fans, oh my gosh, Jon Moxley is an animal. And maybe, Jon Moxley, he's a pretty creative guy and he's very inspired at this stage in his career. It's entirely possible Moxley has got some new moves that he wants to show off. And it's a commercial, so the next time he's in the ring with a signature star, oh dude, there's that move that Moxley's going to do. If he hits this on so-and-so, it's going to be over. And I think it's a nice little appetizer to get you to want to go, oh yeah, Moxley on pay-per-view. That's going to be great because everything he does is always just intense and insane. Now, I love the idea.
This person knows, by the way, that Moxley's been on Dark before, so it's not the first time that he's been on this show. It is the hardest they've ever pushed Jon Moxley on Dark, however, so there is that. We're going to go to Knoxville. You're on the air. What's going on?
What's up, buddies? It was recently the Blade's birthday, and I couldn't help but notice he bears a striking resemblance to the Gambler. Is he a second-generation wrestler?
I would not have known who this was except for the Knoxville. Can't believe we got a Gambler question that got on the air. That's what happens, everybody. By the way, I just want y'all to know, and this is not directed at that caller, but I also have the opportunity to immediately block a number if you try to mess with my show. There's one button right here. It says block. And that's the end of that.
But I wanted to know if the Sun Sphere was open.
Hey, let's go to Montreal. You're on the air. What's going on?
What's up, guys? What's up, Twitch homies? My question today is about the NXT Women's Title Triple Threat match. It's going to happen at TakeOver in Your House this Sunday.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that Charlotte's going to win. And I heard that maybe Io Shirai is going to get called up pretty much soon. But what's going to happen with Ripley? Is she going to get called up soon, or you think she's going to stay in NXT for a while? Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much for the call. So, Triple H on his conference call, and you can make of this what you will. I mean, he pretty much said that Charlotte's role is to get over NXT talent. And so far, she hasn't. But I think what that means is that in the end, she's going to put someone over for that title. Now, I love Io Shirai. She's great. But Rhea Ripley needs to be put over Charlotte for that title. Charlotte already beat her. She needs to get that big win over Charlotte. I also expect that Charlotte is going to win on Sunday. Maybe they'll call up Io Shirai afterwards. I don't know. But Io's another one. Like, if she don't get called up soon, my strong suspicion is she's going back to Japan. So I think she's also another one that they're going to have to call up. And I expect that at some point down the road, might be SummerSlam. I think it should be on a main roster big pay-per-view. Vince wants fans at SummerSlam. I don't know if he's going to get it. But I mean, if you got fans at SummerSlam, then Rhea Ripley needs to beat Charlotte for the NXT title on SummerSlam. Clean in the middle, 1, 2, 3. That's it.
I think that she does need to beat Charlotte at some point, but sort of like we talked about with AEW, it should be not just in a major show, but in front of fans of some kind. I think it needs to be a launching for Rhea Ripley, and I think without real fans cheering her on and that genuine reaction, not unlike we saw with Rhea Ripley before the pandemic and the empty arena era. I just don't see it being as effective. So I'm fine right now, sort of in this gap period where Rhea isn't doing all of that much. I think it won't be hard to kind of flip the switch and get her going in earnest once again, once there's actual fans and you can launch her in earnest.
Hamish here says, I remember when WWE had Matt Hardy versus The Undertaker on the first Superstars show in 2009, and CM Punk versus Sheamus, WWE Champion versus World Heavyweight Champion, on the first main event in 2012. Then both of those shows slowly started to get less and less important. AEW Dark is not like that. It's a good point. I mean, WWE gets an idea, and they go for it, and then they grow tired of it, and they toss it aside. Like my daughter Paisley tosses aside Frozen when she discovers Trolls. That's my comparison to Vince McMahon right there. So, yes, AEW Dark is not what the current WWE main event is right now. Let's go to Memphis. You're on the air. What's going on?
Hello, Bryan. How you doing today? And how you doing today, Mr. Valley? It's an honor and pleasure to talk to an intelligent man like yourself. And you too, Bryan.
Thank you, John.
So I have a question, and this is actually a question that I want to ask you this. Do you think that Vince is going, or is at the point now that he's going to try to call up all the seasoned veterans in the NXT? I'm talking like the Adam Cole, the Io Shirai, and other superstars that have had some, I say, recognized talent in the independent scene, so he can try. I'm not saying try to hold on to them so he can catch them up and try to hold on to them for on the main roster. You know what I'm trying to say?
Jim, do you know what he's trying to say here?
Here's the thing. I have noticed with some of the call-ups that the talent and maybe, I don't want to sound awful, it doesn't seem to be, there seems to be a little greener talent these days featured on NXT. Would you say, is that fair, Bryan?
Well, I mean, when you call up X number of people, then yeah, that's what you end up with. I mean, this happened. I remember when Authors of Pain first got called up. They totally were not ready, but it was because a bunch of people all of a sudden got called up to the main roster, and they had to bring up people that they wouldn't normally have brought up.
I also got a follow-up question for y'all after y'all comment, and here is can I ask this question?
Yes.
And this is a good one.
Yes.
All right. So if you are calling, my thing is this. If you call up like the Adam Cole, the Io Shirai, and the good, I won't say the good talent there, what do you feel like is going to happen to NXT? Do you think they're just going to, I'm not saying flounder, but I'm saying it's going to, you already see that the talent that the shows is going, is not like it was when it was just not a pre-USA, when it was like a good show and I enjoyed the show and it was like everybody, including you, me, and everybody else enjoyed the wrestling show, but it's keep going down to a point of it's becoming WWE like.
Well, John, allow me for a moment. We got a whole bunch of callers here, so
I got something here too,
allow
Bryan,
me. I don't want to spend an hour talking about this, but yes, NXT is different now. But NXT has tons of talent. Okay, they got tons of talent right now, and it's supposed to be developmental. I mean, there's so many people on that brand that should be on the main roster, and I mean, I'll just make it quick, okay? If NXT is supposed to be a third brand, which they are, that's what they claim. They were originally supposed to be developmental, but now they just call it a third brand. Okay, fine. If it's the third brand, then Raw, SmackDown, NXT should be able to mix talent. That means that if you call up Adam Cole and Io Shirai and Rhea Ripley, or let's say you call up all of Undisputed, and it seems like, oh my God, you've just gutted NXT because Matt Riddle just got called up. All right, fine. You know what? Send 3 people from SmackDown and 3 people from Raw to NXT. Now, in the old days, the argument was, well, there's main roster, there's Raw, SmackDown money, but NXT wrestlers, they're not going to make as much money because Raw and SmackDown do 3-4 house shows a week, and NXT, every now and then they do a loop, but in general, they work significantly fewer events, whatever. Well, it ain't like that anymore. There's a decent chance that when we come back from this pandemic, Raw and SmackDown aren't even going to tour anymore. They're going to do Raw and SmackDown and a very occasional house show. So they have one TV a week, and meanwhile, NXT has one TV a week. So in theory, with no house shows, all three brands should actually be equal. There's two on the USA Network, and there's one on Fox. So you got to mix it up. Forget this whole, you can have it be developmental. Like you can have NXT be the brand where people go first when they get called up from the PC. Fine. But it should be an equal mix, Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. And then you can take people and put them from here to there and from there to here. And you have significantly more options if you're going to keep doing this brand split.
You know what my favorite time period in NXT was, Brian? It was that one time when the new star came in. He was super popular. He won a couple of matches and then won the NXT title, then dropped the title and went to the main roster. Let's see, who was that? Was that Kevin Owens? Was that Finn Balor? Samoa Joe? Nakamura? Oh yeah, everybody. I love NXT. Don't get me wrong, but don't glorify so much on NXT. There was a strong pattern for a very, 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 very long time about what NXT did. So changing things up is not a bad thing at all. And if you have greener talent, somebody at some point is going to step up, whether it's someone we're seeing right now or the people now aren't going to cut it and somebody else is going to get their shot. Somebody will step up. But NXT had a lot of patterns, great matches, great stars, serious product, in many ways better, but let's not overstate what NXT did.
All right, we got time for one last very quick call. You're on the air, Hamilton. What's going on?
Hey, Brian. Hey, I just want to give a shout out to the Twitch homies and Genghis. Brian, did you vote for Donald Trump?
Oh, my God. Are you really calling? Do I have to block your call for asking about politics here on this show? I'm going to think about this during the break. Back in a moment.
Ask you what you voted for him with. Could have been Hall of Fame.
Observer Live. Well, it didn't take me long to figure out how to use the block caller option. That guy's history. Try and mess up my show, everybody.
That's my job.
Bad news for that guy, by the way, is I blocked him, but then I don't know how to unblock anybody. So it looks like one strike, you're out. So anyway, hey, it worked out great today. So we'll use those phone lines down the road. Makes it very easy for people. And hey, maybe we'll even have some other special shows here down the road where we take calls as well that are not part of the Sports Byline USA radio networks. That'll be very, very exciting. A couple of last text messages here before we wrap up here today, but not for the week, as Jim Valley will be on tomorrow. One last person here just wanted to thank you, Jim, for that obscure Simpsons reference.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. I appreciate it.
Yes. What do you got coming up tomorrow, by the way?
Brian, every time you ask me this question, it now makes me nervous because I always say, we'll see what happens overnight.
There's a disaster coming tonight. That's what that question means.
Always. So I'm sure we'll talk about SmackDown. We'll talk about NXT TakeOver, which is in your house for reasons, and see what else happens tomorrow. But every time you ask that, be afraid. Be very afraid. But we're on 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern here on Sports Byline. And we'll have the old phone number, not this one.
That's right. This sounds terrible, but I mean, in the 90s, so many wrestlers died on such a regular basis. Like every day I would wake up and I would think, oh my God, who died today? And thankfully, because of a lot of different things, new wrestlers coming up and the wellness policy and this and that, we don't have that problem to this degree anymore. But now I wake up every day and just wonder what disaster has struck here today. And that has not changed. But anyway, tomorrow with Jim Valley, everybody here on Sports Byline USA. I want to thank everybody in the studio, callers and listeners, Twitch homies. We'll talk to you again next time. Wrestling Observer Live.